There's nothing like taking a drive in the fall and taking in the beauty of the fall colors. But here in the Lowcountry, we don't have the same fall foliage you see in a lot of other areas. Here to talk about how we can find our fall colors is our local Clemson Extension agent and resident plant expert, Chris Burt. Chris, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Okay, so why don't we have these fall colors that we see in these northern states or places that we can drive through and really get the fall feel? Why don't we have that here?
So for a real short answer, it's because we don't really have very distinct seasons. And so if you notice, it's, 70, 75 degrees outside.
I did notice that, unfortunately.
Beginning of November. Plants tend to respond to that as well. So the way fall color works is the plants start to get ready for winter, specifically deciduous trees. And what they're doing is they're pulling in the chlorophyll and the pigments that make them green. And so what they're left with are some of the bottom pigments, things that make them orange, red, purple, things like that. That allows for that fall color. The problem is for here, we generally have a much more severe change in temperature. We'll go from really hot to really cool all at once, and plants tend to react kind of severely to that. We also tend to have a rather dry period towards the end of summer, beginning of fall, which unfortunately plants get stressed by. And oftentimes we'll also see an emergence of disease, specifically leaf diseases that affect things like crepe myrtles, affect things like red maples, that will cause those leaves to drop prematurely. And so in reality, we don't have fall color because our climate's just a little bit harsher on these plants.
Well, that is sad, because some of us love the fall. We want to have that whole fall feeling here. Let me ask you this. Does it change, depending on the year, depending if, we have a more a warmer fall, if we have a colder fall? Does that matter?
It can have quite a lot of effect on that. More, it's going to be how our summer is, and if we have a lot of rain or if we don't have a lot of rain, and kind of what the disease pressure on certain plants. So I noticed last year, certain plants produce really good fall color. Crepe myrtles are a really good example of that. They get a leaf spot that causes them to defoliate prematurely. But last year, the disease pressure was much lower because it was a little bit drier. And so those leaves held on and they turn a really nice shade of red and orange occasionally. And so we were able to enjoy that fall color. And then, of course, this year I'm already noticing most crepe myrtles have dropped all their leaves. We stayed a little bit wetter. So it is a little bit of the temperature. It's also the rainfall. It's a whole bunch of factors coming together. And unfortunately for us, it is 100% going to change from year to year. Usually when I talk about fall color on what species to choose from, it's based on consistency. And unfortunately, we have very few that are consistent.
So what can we choose to get those fall colors in our lives? So
unfortunately, a lot of our natives are going to struggle a bit. So red maple is one of the favorites, especially in nursery trades, because again, it's a native tree. But that red fall color is just not consistent. Red maples are rather prone to stress, disease. And so oftentimes we'll turn to our non-natives, things like Japanese maples, which Japanese maples by far are some of my favorites as far as fall color. I can see some right now that are in orange, and there's just that really nice fall look to it. But you can also get kind of more interesting things like your Chinese pistache trees. That's kind of a less common, but it's used in urban environments. That one turns a really nice red color to it. And then there's some non-native maples that actually do really well, like your trident maples that will produce kind of that orange or red color. And so if you get a little bit more creative with it, you can find some. There are some other natives like our black gums turn a really nice red color, but they're not really good for our front yard. I think, unfortunately, we have to get a little bit more. All right, let's select some of those more ornamental types like your Japanese maples.
If you don't want to take a flight, or a very long drive, where are some places we can drive to that aren't too far away that we can actually find those fall colors?
The key is elevation. So the higher up you get, the better the fall color by far is going to be. And I have found usually around Thanksgiving, especially in places like northern Georgia or even in the upstate of South Carolina, you can get some really amazing fall color. You're not necessarily going to get kind of the Vermont picturesque feel, but you're still going to get kind of pockets of really attractive color. We have way too many evergreens, unfortunately, to make it really that picturesque type feel. But if you just get up to the upstate, it's all about elevation.
We have a lot of palm trees too.
We do.
It doesn't feel very fall-y, but you can put Christmas lights on them and make them feel a little bit more holiday-y, right?
Yeah, you can, absolutely. It won't hurt the palm at all.
Okay, good. I was going to ask about that, as long as it's not going to hurt them. Chris, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.